Hello and welcome to Ask the Expert. On today's episode, we welcome Emma Lennox, careers consultant with the Careers Employability and Skills team at Queen's University, who'll be talking to us about the current graduate job market and answering your questions about what you can do to make yourself stand out. Hi Emma, thanks for joining us today. I'll hand over to you now, and could I ask you to start by explaining a little bit about your role and the wider work of the Careers Employability and Skills team, please?
Hi Andy, thanks very much. My name is Emma. I've worked as a careers consultant at Queen's now for the past 5 years. Careers Employability and Skills is split into 3 different sections. So we have global opportunities. So these are the guys that help you with your study abroad and your exchange schemes. We have the employer engagement team, who work directly with employers to assess for vacancies and search out opportunities to bring them on campus. And I work with student development. So we are the careers consultants, and we will help you with things like your career planning, decision making, helping you through the recruitment process. We would run different programs as well to kind of fast track your development of the skills that you need. So careers at Queen's is very different from maybe what people have experienced in school or in the past. We work with current graduates and graduates who have current students and people who graduated within the last 2 years. So you can come back to us again. So if you know exactly what you want to do, brilliant, come and chat to us. We will help you connect with the right employers, look at your CV and stuff, and get you there as quickly as you can. If you're like the other 95% of people who haven't a clue what they want to do, come to us as well. We will help you narrow down your choices, look at what you like, what you don't like, and see if we can look at the labour market and what would suit you as well. So to say, we are extremely busy. We're normally on campus and we're online at the moment, but as I say, things are changing at the minute, but that's who we are.
Thank you very much. At this stage, I would like to invite attendees to start fielding their questions via the Q&A box on screen. But to get the ball rolling, Emma, you mentioned there about uncertainty for graduates at any time, I suppose, shortly after graduating. Given the current circumstances in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, what sort of impact has that had on the graduate job market?
It's a tricky one. We would follow the High Flyers Research Company, and what they do is they do research in the top 100 employers, and they bring out the reports every year. So they brought out the one in January for 2020 before everything really kicked off. Unemployment was up for the 3rd year in a row, things were going well, everything changed, and they actually did an interim report in May. And what they came back and they said that, well, actually a lot of the recruitment had actually finished already, but 40% of recruitment was completed, but employers were still employing. So 57% said they still anticipated taking on the same number of graduates. So employers are still interested in maintaining that flow of talent, of getting people to come in as well. Now, recruitment has changed. We've had online interviews obviously are happening more often. We've had group interviews that are happening online. So the process has changed. Work experience has changed. But the opportunities in a lot of places are still there because the companies are adapting and changing. So it's important that graduates and job seekers adapt and change as well. So I was on, we use the My Future is our career planning tool. So we would have jobs advertised on that as well. And this morning there were 246 job postings sitting there, and 167 of them were for graduate positions. So there are opportunities there, but again, it might be up to the graduate or the job searcher to maybe look at what's there, maybe adjust their expectations slightly. But keep going, keep looking. Don't stop just because of what's happening at the moment.
So amidst the potentially depressing headlines, there are reasons for encouragement still then in the job market.
Oh goodness, if you read every newspaper and believed every headline, you would not go over the front door. You genuinely wouldn't. There are still opportunities out there because people still need staff, they still need work, and they still need Queen's graduates. So yeah, keep going.
Great. You mentioned there about graduates potentially having to sort of alter their expectations. Are there particular things that new graduates can be doing at the moment, if it's potentially a sort of fallow period for the type of work they're looking for? But by that I mean, are there particular things they can be doing around developing soft skills and that sort of thing? What advice would you give on that?
Yeah, it's definitely something where I think a future interview question is going to be, how did you use your time during lockdown? Because I mean, I'm sure people have fantastic sourdough and banana bread recipes, but that's not really going to help you in the interview process. So what we've been really encouraging our students to do is stay active and start and be smart about what you're doing. So I would say, like, first things first, make sure that CV is sitting ready, good to go. Make sure it is all singing, all dancing, has everything down on it. Fire it into us, let us check it with you, and make sure that when that dream job does come up, that you are good to go for it. In parallel to that, once you've got your CV done, make sure your LinkedIn is sitting good to go as well, because that's your online CV. They should match. LinkedIn is something that's so fluid and you can keep using it. Stay up to date on it. Start and follow influential people. Start and find people who are where you want to be and find out how they got there. It's a really good way to link in, to look for mentors, to ask questions. If people have time, they're more likely to answer questions at the moment as well. So I've been able to track down some alumni, even for a program I'm running shortly, and they're all really happy to come back in and contribute. There are a lot of courses that are online. Look at your strengths, yes, what you're good at, but where are your gaps? What's your weaknesses? And those are the things that you need to work on. So for example, with me, I'm constantly trying to keep on top of my IT skills. So anything that comes through for like an IT course or something that is something different, I want to add that to my skill set. So this is the time to start and do it. It's just important to keep on top of those things as well, to show that you are still moving forward.
Excellent. In the current climate, obviously a lot of people have been working from home, and you mentioned there about your sort of physical CV versus your LinkedIn CV. I would imagine that nowadays a lot of graduates do have, it comes as second nature to have slightly more developed IT skills. Do you think that's going to be something that employers are looking for of more in the future, particularly given that people are working from home more, those basic IT skills?
Well, I actually did a piece of research last year, and it was around a degree plus, and it was around what skills employers are looking for. So I actually went out and I asked them, I said, like, what do you need, what's going to be relevant and what's not. Basically, they don't want you to break the photocopier on the first day. So just don't go in and like blow something up. That's fine. So you'll be expected to know the basics. Can you log in? Can you send emails? That sort of thing. They're not going to be expecting you to code unless that's your particular job. Make sure you're good at that. What they really pushed, and they really said, look, we want students and graduates who can communicate, who can not just send an email, but do it professionally and make sure there's no spelling mistakes in it, and to be able to work with other people and to be able to solve problems, not just identify them, but to come to us with solutions. And that was something that I wasn't expecting. And I think a lot of graduates, maybe especially in the arts humanities, would assume that there's a big focus on, get your IT and make sure your technology is fantastic. But you need to have those people skills as well. So they identified things like teamwork, communication, leadership, your business acumen, your cultural awareness came up as well. So
right.
Being able to be empathetic with other people, to be able to recognize, yes, this person is reacting this way, I wonder what else is going on with them. So it was a very interesting piece of research to actually come back to. But as I say, I think Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype is going to become expected now. And you can use it technically, but I have seen some fantastic examples of people not being able to bring their people skills into it.
Right. Okay. So people skills remain as important as ever.
Oh my goodness, yes. You can be technically brilliant, but if nobody wants to work with you, that's not going to help.
Okay. We've had a question here relating to CVs. How do you know your CV is up to scratch? Do you have a certain site that is best for use for constructing your CV? I think basically there we're asking for any specific tips or advice in terms of putting a CV together.
I love CVs. Yes. First things first, have a quick look at our Queen's website. There's a section on it and I'll take you through the do's and don'ts. We don't give out templates because they tend to constrict people more than help them. If you can get the headings right, then you'll be fine. So your name and your contact details, personal statement if you want to do one, get your education in there, get your work experience, your interests and achievements. Start from your most recent and work your way back. What I would say for every CV, please, 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 please tailor it to the job that you're going for. This takes time, and yes, you'll end up with 40 different CVs if you're applying for 40 different jobs. But what I always say to students is, if you go to a restaurant and that restaurant gives everybody burgers, even if you've asked for chicken, you'll not go back. Each employer is asking for something different. Listen to what they're asking for, okay? Find the words, get it on your CV. Use their language if you need to. Okay, it must be tailored to them. We have a program called VMOC. What you can do is you can upload your CV to it. You can get it through My Future. And what it will do is actually grade your CV against other CVs in the sector and at Queen's, and you'll get a grade. And you'll get either green, amber, or red. What they'll do is they'll come back and it'll give you comments on your format and on your content. And what we would say is try it again, adjust it, try it again, and if you can see if you can get over 70%. If you get over 70%, then fire it over to us and we'll have a look at it. It's really interesting. Pardon me. So it'll be able to help you with your sector as well. But make sure everything's up to date. Try and get measure in there. So don't tell me you worked as a team. Tell me you worked as part of a team of 4 people over a period of 3 weeks to complete X project. So try and get some facts in there as well. This is meant to be your best piece of work that you're presenting to an employer. So don't make the mistakes in it. The number of people that tell me they were a manger instead of a manager, it just gets ridiculous. Okay, I've had people tell me they were encrusted with money instead of entrusted. Spell check won't pick it up. Let your mommy see your CV, okay? Get somebody else to read it every time. Not that I don't love finding spelling mistakes, but it's not going to help you get a job.
Okay. So CV, so the traditional CV remains as relevant as ever then. The reason I ask that is because obviously a lot of job applications are now done via online portals, but a traditional CV is still as relevant as ever, would you say?
It's a really useful document to have just to get all your thoughts in order. So I have what I call my master CV, and it's about 4 pages long, and it has absolutely everything I've ever done in it. So if I decided I was going to go for a teaching position, I would pull out every job role that was related to teaching. If I was going for something in administration, I would see which parts were administration and bring it out. Especially if you're going for application forms, it's a lovely thing to have to go. You don't have to think about dates anymore, and you can start and move things across. So definitely, if you have that done as a master document, it's so useful for your future job search.
Great. We've had another couple of questions come in here, and one sort of, I think, relates to a point you made earlier about the fact that there are still graduate level jobs coming in. And the question reads, are there any new sectors where you feel there is more demand or there will be more demand for graduate jobs? Or should people still sort of stay focused on their original plans?
This is a really tricky one because the situation is changing so much at the moment. I think it depends what you have planned to do. So if you have something that you have wanted to do since you were tiny, since you were 5, this is what you wanted to do, and that's what you're passionate about, my goodness, go for it. Now, it might take some time. You might have to go in a slightly different direction to do it. But if that's what your passion is, go for it. In terms of sectors that are emerging, that's something that we're watching very closely as well. And it's something that the employer engagement team are watching. And again, the university is watching in terms of courses to offer. So for example, the software development course, we were given extra funding for new places during the summer, because it's anticipated that that will be a growth sector. But with so many changes at the minute, that is a genuinely tricky question for anybody to answer.
Yeah. Like, as you say, it is a very fluid situation at the moment. So watch this space. We've had a question come in here regarding online interviews for graduates. Are there any particular do's and don'ts for online interviews?
Oh, I love online interviews because people think that they get so relaxed and they forget where they are. First things first, pretend it's like a normal interview. Get yourself dressed. Dress like for an interview. Make sure you don't stand up by accident during the interview and reveal you're wearing your pajama bottoms. Check your background. I've done fantastic interviews with people's housemates just wandering along behind them. Again, make sure the presentation is there. Practice. If you go into My Future, we actually have a practice mock interview that you can complete. And what we'll do is you can put in the questions and we will ask you them, and you can see yourself practicing these questions on person. I'd say please do practice them. It's a really, really useful tool. In terms of online bit, once you've got the technology sorted, it is a standard interview. Try not to get too distracted by thinking, oh, it's great, I can have all my notes. That can actually be more distracting. So I know people who have written lots of things and have them all sitting out and all good to go, but they've lost their focus and not listened to the question. So do try and listen to the question. Also be careful if you've got a seat like mine that moves. If you're nervous, keep yourself planted. Can be distracting as well. So a lot of things that apply in a normal interview are going to be the same for an online one. You have to have the extra complication of your internet going out, or the fire alarm going off, or your cat wandering in.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the tricky bits that make it different.
Grand, sage advice there. Another question that's come in here relates to, I suppose, sort of actual job searching. Should I be looking for advertised jobs only, or should I contact the companies that I know I want to work for anyway? So should people still be illustrating that sort of proactive approach in terms of contacting employers directly?
I've done both. And I see no harm in contacting both. Employers, yes, are still applying, so go through their channels. All right, so go properly through that. If you're interested in a particular company and you're not sure what's happening at the minute, ask them. The worst they can say is no. That's it. Yeah. That's all they can say. And then you can go back and say, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. If anything does come up in the future, can you remember me? And then they've remembered you as a polite person who's being proactive. I would see nothing wrong with asking like it's a speculative application. What I would consider with that one is when you come to write your cover letter, which goes with your CV, you'll have to put in some of your skill set in that particular cover letter, because you're applying for something that they haven't necessarily advertised. Yes. So you're trying to pitch yourself and sell your brand. But I personally have done both.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And in terms of the advertised jobs, still the traditional kind of job search sites, I assume, or are there any that you would sort of particularly guide people towards?
I am absolutely not going to recommend or use a name brand in case I get sued. What I would say is whenever you go on to whatever website you choose, okay, now make sure, like some of them are more England, UK based. If you want to stay in Northern Ireland, do watch where you're looking that way geographically. Try not to look for something really, really specific, because that's where I think people miss some brilliant things. So for example, if you literally go and put history graduate, it will probably tell you 0. But if you go in and start and browse and start and put in search terms of things you'd be interested in. I used to go on job search websites and literally just put in Belfast as my search term. And some of the things that came up were pure gems that I would never have found. I've seen the same job called 2 different things on 2 different websites. It's been the same job. But if I was looking specifically, I wouldn't have found it. If I had browsed, I would definitely have found it. What I will say is, if you're looking for a particular job in a particular sector, if you go onto our website, there's a menu at the top, there's a drop down bit. There's a bit that says careers information by job and sector. You can go in by your school, and you can search by, when you go in there, it'll give you different things maybe you'd be interested in. We have a whole library of websites that are specific. So for example, say you want to work in publishing, you might not find that on NI Jobs, but you will find it if you go into a specific website that we have put up there. And I only know that because I did them. So if you're looking for a particular niche area, that's a really good place to look. So okay. Just to get you started.
Brilliant. There had been another sort of couple of questions come in, I suppose, in relation to things we've previously discussed. One of those was, I have a degree. Are there other things that employers are looking for above and beyond, my educational attainment? And in connection to that question, another came in asking, I haven't managed to secure a placement this year due to COVID. Will my qualifications be enough, or do employers still prefer experienced graduates?
Tricky. Also depends on what you're studying and if you needed experience as part of your degree to qualify. So I'm going to assume that you didn't get a placement year, but you've graduated. Okay, so that's where we're at. So instead of doing 4 years with placement, you've done 3 years and you've graduated. Employers do look for experience, but it's how you pitch it to them. So please don't neglect things like part-time work. Please don't think I didn't do something relevant, I can't bring that to the table. Absolutely, my goodness, get any bar work, cafe work, anything on your CV, okay? Come and chat to us if you think that you don't have experience, and we can try and tease some out. I have people who've been able to put volunteering on their CV as well, and anything they've done with clubs and societies, get that in as well. So yes, it would be great to have your qualification and your professional practice together, because it shows you have the smarts behind it, but you're also realistic about the sector. If you don't have any sector experience, then you need to say how you do know the sector and how you definitely know that you want to work in it. So start and research around that. Maybe start and listen to podcasts, start and link with people on LinkedIn. The lovely thing about everything going on to Zoom at the minute is I've been able to go to conferences that I wouldn't have been able to go to in the past, because I'd had to have physically travel to them. I can't get to England quickly. I can watch 3 lectures in the evening because it's been pre-recorded. It's brilliant. So I've actually been able to get more out of everything being online. It's about how you pitch your experience. Please don't think that there are some things that aren't important.
Mm-hmm. You make a very valid point there, and one that I think people can take a lot of value from, in terms of the fact that there's so much more online, but even over the last few months, that it sort of broadens people's reach, I suppose. Mm-hmm. Being able to attend something that's potentially being hosted in America or or even England that they may have not been able to get to before. We've got time for a couple more questions. One of those that's one of the most recent that's come in, again in relation to something we spoke about earlier, but perhaps you could just give a reminder on it. Is the ability to illustrate strong soft skills more important now? And I suppose that's in relation to what we were saying about employers will be looking at what people have been doing during lockdown. Is it a time to develop your soft skills? And if so, are there particular soft skills that you would encourage people to look at?
What I would say to this one is put yourself in the seat of the employer, and you're bringing somebody into your team. What would you like to see from that person? So this is the sort of stuff that they're going to put in their job advert. And that's the sort of thing, what you will find is when you start and look for jobs, start and look at what they're looking for, their essential and desirable criteria. Ignore all the qualifications part of it. What are they specifically always wanting? Communication comes up continually. Teamwork comes up continually. Resilience is a big one that is going, and people are going to ask for evidence of that. So try and think as well whenever you're going into the job search, how can I evidence these skills? You could take that from your degree, you could take that from projects you've done, you could take that from presentations, it could be something you did extracurricular, as long as you can bring that experience to the table. But yes, soft skills are something that it's not just getting a job, it's staying in it and it's progressing, and you take them throughout your career. You know, my qualification that I got when I finished Queen's was only the start. Like, I'm on my second master's now because I have continued to grow, continued to learn. You know, I'd like to think my communication's better now than when I graduated. Because these are things that you continue to build as you go. So it's not just about getting a job, it's about career ownership and being excited about what you do.
Yeah, you mentioned career ownership there, and you mentioned the fact that it's not just about getting a job, it's about staying in a job. Do you think, and this will just be a case of your own personal opinion, I suspect.
Oh no, don't ask me that.
Do you anticipate that coming out of the pandemic, we'll be seeing a jobs market where people are staying with the same company for longer, perhaps a return to that sort of, you know, I say it in inverted commas, job for life?
I think a job for life is something that I think, how do I word this? People can stay maybe with the same company, but they will change job roles within that company. So I think that that's possibly where people are at. So staying, yes, because they enjoy the ethos and the values of the company, but working their way around it. Like, I've helped out with different departments over the summer, and it's been really interesting to see what different people in Queen's do. So I found an organisation that I love to work with, but trying different things within it. And I think that's possibly what may happen.
Okay. I think we're pretty much coming towards the end of the session now, Emma. Thank you very much for taking part today, and thank you to everybody that's fielded their questions. To sort of wrap up the session, and in response to the very last question that's been sent in as well, could you remind us again of the best contact, the best way to get in touch with the careers team if people are looking for advice?
Okay. First things I would say, check out the website. We have spruced it up and made it all fancy over the summer. We have identified key soft skills that we think students and graduates would need, and we have made a list of how you can actually develop them online. So we've put links to different courses and things that are free. You might find those useful. So, but I've talked about communication and leadership. So they would be things that you can actually find resources on there to work on. CVs, get yourself through VMOC, check on My Future as well. But if you get really stuck, we have eGuidance, and you can use us for 2 years after you graduate. So we might not be able to physically sit in front of you, but we can make an appointment and chat to you over Skype, over Microsoft Teams. You'd be very welcome.
Brilliant. Well, look, Emma, thanks again so much for taking the time to speak to us today. There's been some fantastic advice in there, and a lot which I suspect people will be able to take away with them. So thanks again, and all the best. Have a great weekend.
Yes, thank you.
We will be sharing the recording of the session on social media channels over the following days. So this will be available to people to view as a recording. In the meantime, if you do have any queries relating to your own graduate job search, then please get in touch with Emma and the rest of the employability team. But thank you very much for joining us, and have a great weekend.